Friends, throughout history, punishment has often been far more brutal than justice. In this video, you will discover some of the most horrifying methods ever used on human beings. So shocking, it's hard to believe that one person could inflict such cruelty on another. Prepare yourself, because history is darker than we imagine. Number 1. Impaling. In the long and brutal history of human punishment, impaling stands out as one of the most horrifying methods ever used. This was not limited to Europe. It was practiced across the Middle East and Asia as well, dating back to ancient civilizations. Historical records suggest that impalement was used as early as the 18th century. BCE empires such as Assyria, Babylonia, and later the Ottoman Empire employed this method to spread fear and enforce absolute control. The process itself was pure agony. A long, sharpened wooden stake was fixed upright in the ground. The victim was forced down onto the stake or dropped onto it. As the body's weight pressed downward, the stake slowly pierced upward through the body. Death could take hours, or even days as the victim remained fully conscious, suffering unbearable pain. Executioners often inserted the stake carefully to avoid vital organs like the heart or lungs, ensuring the victim wouldn't die quickly, but would instead endure prolonged torture. In Europe, the most infamous use of impalement came in the 15th century, under the rule of Vlad the Impaler of Wallachia, the man who inspired the legend of Dracula. It is said that he ordered thousands of criminals and enemies to be impaled, their screams echoing across the land as a warning to all who dared defy him. Impaling reminds us of a terrifying truth. There were times in history when fear was the law and cruelty was the tool used to enforce it. Number 2. Coffin torture. In the darkest chapters of history, one of the most brutal and horrifying punishments ever enforced was coffin torture, also known as the gibbet or cage execution. This method was widely used throughout medieval Europe. The condemned person was locked inside a tight iron cage, a cage built exactly to the size of the human body, so small that the victim could not fully stand, could not sit down, could hardly move at all. The cage was then hung high in a crowded public place, from a tall pole, a gate, or a large tree, ensuring that everyone who passed by witnessed their suffering. But public humiliation was only the beginning. For days, sometimes even weeks, hunger and thirst slowly destroyed their strength. Sun, rain, and bitter cold tormented their body. Infection and rot set in as they remained trapped and helpless. Death came slowly, painfully, and without mercy. And even after death, the cruelty continued. The corpse was left hanging in the cage, where birds and wild animals would tear flesh from the bones, turning the body into a gruesome warning. The purpose was clear: to strike fear into anyone who dared break the law. Coffin torture reminds us of a time when justice was not about fairness, but about terrifying revenge, carried out in full view of society. Number 3. The Choke Pear. Throughout history, countless terrifying methods were used to punish criminals. Among the most infamous was a brutal torture device known as the Pear of Anguish, or the Choke Pear. While many stories surrounding this device remain debated, it is widely believed to have been used in medieval Europe, particularly in France and Germany. Shaped like a metal pear, the instrument was inserted into the most sensitive parts of the victim's body. Once inside, a screw mechanism was turned, causing the device to expand outward, tearing internal tissue apart. Historical accounts suggest it was used in different forms for different accusations. 1. Inserted into the mouth, for blasphemers or false witnesses. 2. Inserted into the anus, often for thieves or those accused of sodomy. 3. Inserted into the vagina, for women accused of adultery or abortion. As the device expanded, it inflicted unbearable pain and could cause fatal internal damage. Some historians argue that in many cases, it may have been used more as a tool of intimidation and torture rather than execution. But even the threat of its use was enough to break a person's will. Today, replicas of this sinister device can still be found in museums, serving as a chilling reminder of a dark era when cruelty was disguised as justice and suffering was a public spectacle. Number 4. The breaking wheel. In medieval Europe, one of the most brutal and terrifying forms of execution was known as the breaking wheel, or the Catherine wheel. This punishment was reserved for those considered the worst enemies of society, criminals such as murderers, robbers, and traitors. The execution was staged in the center of the town before massive crowds, almost like a public festival, designed to instill fear in anyone who watched. The condemned person was tied tightly to a large wooden wheel, their arms and legs stretched wide and fastened so they couldn't move. Then, using a heavy iron bar, the executioner would methodically smash the victim's bones. Legs first, arms next, and sometimes even the spine. All done carefully to ensure the prisoner would not die quickly, but remain conscious, screaming in agony. After the bones were shattered, the wheel, with the victim still tied to it, was raised and mounted on a pole, leaving the person to slowly die over the course of hours, or even days. In some regions, there was a grim superstition. If the bindings broke and the prisoner fell from the wheel, it was believed to be a sign of divine intervention, and the condemned might be granted mercy. But such miracles were extremely rare. The breaking wheel was more than just an execution. It was a public demonstration of pain, shame, and absolute power. It stands as a chilling reminder that in the past, justice was often not about fairness, but about fear, and cruelty was part of the system itself. Number 5. Flaying. In the ancient world, few civilizations were feared as much as the Assyrian Empire. From around 900 BCE to 600 BCE, the Assyrians were known not only for their unmatched military power, but also for some of the cruelest punishments ever recorded in human history. One of the most terrifying methods they used was flaying, skinning a person alive. Archaeological evidence and ancient inscriptions describe how Assyrian kings, such as Ashurnasirpal II and Tiglath-Pileser III, frequently ordered this brutal torture. Highly trained executioners would carefully peel the victim's skin piece by piece, ensuring that the person remained alive throughout the agony. Because the purpose was not death, the purpose was suffering. The horror didn't end there. Victims were tied upright to walls. Their skin was removed while they screamed in pain, and the stripped skin was then nailed or hung on city gates or public walls. This public display served a clear purpose, a warning to everyone: defy the Assyrian king, and this will be your fate. In history, few punishments have been so calculated, so deliberate, and so horrifying. The flaying practices of the Assyrians remain a chilling reminder that behind the rise of great empires, there is often a terrifying legacy of violence and fear. Number 6. Autodafé. During the 16th and 17th centuries, at the height of the Catholic Inquisition, Europe witnessed one of its most terrifying forms of punishment, autodafé. A Portuguese term meaning an act of faith, it was ironically used to justify brutal executions in the name of religious purity. In Spain and Portugal, anyone who questioned the authority of the church or dared to follow a different belief was declared a criminal against God. Accused individuals were interrogated for days or weeks. Torture was commonly used to force confessions, whether true or not. After that, the final punishment took place publicly as a horrifying spectacle. 1. The condemned was tightly chained to a wooden stake. 2. Massive crowds gathered to witness the execution. 3. Fire was slowly lit at the feet of the victim. 4. Flames gradually rose, ensuring a long, agonizing death rather than a quick one. The message was chillingly clear: submit to the church or burn. These executions were ordered not just by priests, but also by kings and government officials, unifying church and state through fear and violence. During the era of autodafé, thousands of people were burned alive. For adopting another religion, for holding scientific or forbidden beliefs, and many, due to entirely false accusations, autodafé remains one of history's darkest reminders. When religion becomes a weapon, faith is no longer sacred, and humanity turns to ashes. Number 7. Scaphism. In ancient Persia, there existed a punishment so cruel and terrifying that it is still remembered as one of the most brutal executions ever devised. This method was known as Scaphism. Greek historian Plutarch documented that this torture was typically used for treason, especially crimes against the royal family. One infamous incident occurred around 358 BCE during the reign of King Artaxerxes II. A Persian soldier accused of murdering the king's brother was sentenced to this unimaginable fate. The execution process was designed to inflict maximum pain over as many days as possible. 1. The prisoner was forced to consume milk and honey until his stomach could no longer handle it, causing vomiting and diarrhea. 2. He was then trapped between two wooden boats or hollowed boards, like a coffin, leaving just his head, hands, and feet exposed. 3. More milk and honey were smeared all over his exposed skin. 4. Finally, he was left outside near swamps or water bodies, where insects swarmed his helpless body. What followed was pure horror. Insects crawled into the wounds, open sores, and natural orifices. His body began filling with infection and decay. Hunger and dehydration tortured him relentlessly. He remained alive while bugs literally ate him from the inside out. Historical texts reveal that victims survived for days, even more than a week, enduring a slow, rotting death while fully conscious. Scaphism wasn't just an execution. It was a public message. Betray the king, and you will suffer a death so slow that the entire world will hear your screams. It stands today as one of the darkest examples of how far humans have gone to turn punishment into pure terror. What do you think about these historical punishments? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more incredible episodes from the darker side of history. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.